couple of big shots by Razzie van der Dusen at the end. But if you look back at that innings, we're still waiting to figure out when South Africa will actually go for the charge. Problem is, they finished their quota of 49 overs and they're at 241 for 6. And whether or not you think it's like an old-fashioned 50-over score from the 1980s, you'd really have to say in the context of this World Cup and where 50-over cricket has moved, this should have to be 100 par. I'll have to check with my experts if they agree. Joy Bhattcharjya, Zaheer Khan, never mind where we were on our My 11 Circle expert couch predictions. I think South Africa will feel their...
You must be very disappointed that you missed the expert couch by what? Just the whisker?
4 runs.
4 runs, yeah.
Chris Morris had to connect on one of those 6 wild swings that he tried.
But I think you'd agree well over.
They fell short. Yes, clearly you can make out it's just the batsmen getting start and not really capitalizing on the start which they got, especially Faf and Amla. I think South Africa needed that to happen. South Africa needed one of the top order batsmen to go through and make that big score. And that's something which we've seen in the tournament. The one batsman from your top 3-4 batsmen taking the responsibility, and when they're in, making that big score. So that's something which was missing from South Africa right throughout the tournament, and that's something which even today they had to pay price of, and those margins which you talk about is just 40-50 runs, and that would have been, say, above par score on this track, because there is help in the track. So bowlers can come into to play, but now South African bowlers are going to need some special effort to bail the batting team out of these, they have to make up these 30-40 runs.
I think that just sums up the entire story. The South African bowlers will have to bail their batsmen out. So you know that they've been naughty boys, and can the bowlers do it? What about the partnerships or lack of in this innings? Because there were some, but they just never kicked on. You saw Amla and du Plessis 50. That should have gone on to 100 or 80. Amla and Makram, same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go throughout this, and I just want to reiterate the point, have a look at the partnerships. Nothing close to 100, but not approaching 100. None of these are small partnerships. All of them have got starts. And here is the stat that actually, I'm just going back to what Zaheer said, that tells you the problem of South Africa in the series. The highest scored before this match, they played 4 matches before this, was De Kock on 68. Faf has scored 62. Amla has scored 55. Van Dusen has scored 50. Today he scored 67 again. Where is the big 100? If you see the teams who have won, who've scored 300s, 350s on the board, you've got big centuries, you've got 90s, 80s. Your highest score is 68 means guys are getting starts and not converting it. The other thing, he hit a 6 in the last over. Ducey hit a 6 in the last over. But look at the way he was swinging at it before that. You're wondering, is this a guy who's batted 60 balls? He's an international top quality batsman. Has he batted 60 balls and he's still... he's just not looking like he'll connect it. And those were some of the things that you look at and say that if a top-class team like South Africa cannot score more than 70 in 5 matches, then how are they going to win matches?
It almost seemed, and I'll bring Zaheer into this after we have a look at the progression of the innings. And we've seen how well teams have done it despite a relatively slow start. And we'll give them that first 10 overs at 40 for 1. That next 11 to 25, you start heading downwards without losing a wicket. Now, that's an area of concern to me.
Yeah, that actually sums it up beautifully, because, usually you've seen teams setting the platform and then building from there. That building partnership was not really the case with South Africa. And that's what it's reflecting, basically getting the starts, but not really turning it into a big score. That's something which was missing, and that sums up. And every time you've seen you lose wickets, then the next pair has to build from there, and that takes time. So that fall in run rate shows that the wickets were lost, and then the time had taken, and someone like Grandom bowling his quota of 9 or 10 was he's bowled.
Odd runs.
Kane Williamson didn't have to go use his 6th bowling resource.
Who, by the way,
tells a story, because that tells a story that the South African batsmen have not put pressure on these New Zealand bowlers. They let them settle, and they were hoping that they will make mistakes. And here the credit goes to New Zealand bowlers that they actually held it together. They stuck to their plans, and they were once again playing that percentage cricket which we are talking about, playing according to the conditions and sticking to the plan, absorbing pressure. That's something which they did beautifully, and that's why they've managed to stay in such a strong position through and through. And later, you have Chris Morris, you have Peklukwayo, but it doesn't really matter. You've left it too late. Then for anyone to come in and start going from ball one, it gets difficult because it's not that sort of a wicket. So this is something which South Africa will have to now come together, and especially their bowlers. The onus is on the likes of Rabada and Ngidi now to set that tone, because they have to create something special now to win the match from here, and hope the wicket stays the same, because there is help in the wicket, but you have to be now aggressive. You can't be just coming in there and hoping that things will happen for you if you get in the areas. Now it's not about staying in the areas, it's about going for those wickets, because if New Zealand look to play these 49 overs, they're going to win the match.
We talk about peaking early in a tournament. The question, Joy, did South Africa choke too early?
It's a difficult one.
Were they almost like,
they were
going
scared.
without a plan, little
and
scared, tentative?
They all look tentative. And there's, again, I go back to one of his favorite captains, Saurav Ganguly. He used to say, and his belief was, he said that if you've now got in 20 balls, 25 balls, you've got in, you complete the game, you finish it from here. And I look back at this batting order and I see at least 5 batsmen have got in. Mamla has got in, du Plessis has got in, Markram has got in, Van Dusen has got in, Miller has got in. All 5 batsmen got themselves in.
Yeah.
And not one of them completed their job. That for me is the tragedy of the South African side. And again, you look at Miller and you say, okay, he started swinging, he started getting runs. Couldn't he have started swinging, say, 5 this thing over? And not only that, we didn't see any instructions come out saying, boss, get it on with. Because see, this is not just another match for South Africa. We've discussed at the beginning, this is a knockout match. They lose this match, they are almost certainly out of this tournament. And mathematically, I think they are out of the tournament if they lose this match.
Lack of plan? They just didn't seem to have the intent, the energy that you would expect to see, as we said, for the last time I'll say it, in a cup tie, where you know that it's do or die. You have a different kind of body language on that day. And today it seemed like, just another league game, another 10 games to go.
Well, the match is not over as yet. So that is something which South Africa should be having a lookout for. And especially someone in the dressing room now needs to just wake everyone up and say that, okay, right now you can lose this game in 40 overs. It's fine. Because you have to go in with that kind of attitude. You have to go for the kill. You can't now think that, okay, we'll settle our line and lengths and all that. No. You go out there, either you lose the game in 40 overs or you win the game in 40 overs by getting the team all out. So that's something should be the approach, because they have the resources. They have Rabada, they have Ngidi, they have Chris Morris and Peklukwayo. So on this track, if it's helping seamers, you have 4 bowlers. So go in with the approach of saying that it's a 40-over match and not 49 overs. Imran Tahir, as someone who's been a very good leggy, has created that impact. So if you get support from him as well, and you get that early inroads in this New Zealand batting lineup, then yes, you can win the match. But you have to believe it that way. You have to think that way. And there is no room for letting this tentativeness come in your group.
That's the word. Tentative is the word that you saw today throughout. The other thing was, I think McCullum was pointing out that the way Bolt was bowling, there's certain footmarks which is going to look very nice for Imran Tahir. He gives him a place to put it. The right hander is going to, it's going to be a bit difficult for the right hander if he manages to use those footmarks well. So there is something to play for, but as he said, you can't be tentative anymore, and that was the only surprising thing for us. It wouldn't have been surprising if they were shot out for 180 or they scored 300. It's this 240 and they still had 5-6 wickets in hand with a fairly deep batting side. That's what didn't work for anybody.
Probably the X factor we're talking about. I'll take all of you back, for those who don't know the story. The day in Johannesburg in 2006 when South Africa conceded 434, you'd imagine the dressing room would be a pretty somber place. Well, it was somber for a while until Jacques Kallis walked in there and said, guys, I think they're 15 runs short.
I've heard that story from Jacques Kallis. I've heard that story from somebody else who's worked a lot with Zaheer, Adrian Leroux, who's to be the physio for the Indian team, the trainer for the Indian team, and works with Zaheer as well. And he said not only that, before they walked in, they were actually, which has never happened before in South African cricket, they were pelted with fruit and whatever by the audience. They were so angry, the crowd was so angry, they were pelted with stuff, so they had to hide to get into the dressing room. And that's never happened before. We are very used to it in India, but South African cricket, that never happens.
But yeah, as you said, I mean, that's that kind of a little thing. Someone needs to say something in that dressing room. They need to go out there and say, yeah, we've got enough on the board kind of thing.
Absolutely. And then be aggressive and attacking, So have two slips, gully, have that kind of a field and have men in catching position, especially in that first 10 to 14 overs. Because even when South Africa was batting, you saw the couple of balls going uppishly. Through that region where the fielders were not there. So that's something which you have to look at. You have to look at saying that, okay, New Zealand have dropped few catches in the field, so that has worked in their favor. There is enough help in the wicket. Those sort of chats has to happen. If that dressing room right now talking about someone soaking in dot balls or someone not connecting the shots as they would have liked, or someone has not got the start after getting in, if they are in those kind of mold, then it's going to be difficult for them.
Yeah, just looking at from New Zealand's point of view, just an interesting one before we talk about their batting joy. Colin de Grandhomme played in the IPL. Yes, he's a great hitter of the ball, but to have him take away overs from someone like Jimmy Neesham, who was a fifer in the last match he played, it just showed that even proper line length and accuracy can work on the surface.
Absolutely. I mean, just Henry's spell. Henry is by far the slowest of the South African fast bowlers, if you look at it that way. But the lengths that he bowled, the kind of how difficult it was to negotiate, that what he called the test match length, teasing outside the off stump. This is that kind of wicket. And he probably thought, and Kane Williamson is a smart guy, he would have realized that Grandham's bowling probably suited this just a little bit more. And every over he gave, he said, okay, I'll see one more over and let me see where I go.
Also, Joy, I know they export players to every country in the world, but you said South African. It was New Zealand. Matt Henry, New Zealand.
Sorry.
He's one of those few people who are not from South Africa. It's hard.
He's one of the few ones not from South Africa.
Exactly. It's hard to remember that. But let's look at a couple of hardcore Kiwis in there who have had partnerships in England with numbers that you simply would not believe. Kane Williamson, great player. Ross Taylor, fabulous player. But look at their partnerships in ODIs in England. 12 innings, over 1,000 runs together at a stunning average of 91.36, 4 times past 100. So I'm not sure they'll even need something so big if they get a start from Guptill and Munro, but this is impressive.
It's extremely impressive, and it shows. I mean, look, Williamson has not been around long. He's been comparatively more recent entrant. Ross Taylor is one of their veterans, but it shows you that 3, 4, 5, those positions are clicking and getting things done together. It's difficult, of course, to say because this would be over a fairly long period of time, over 5, 6 years. But it shows that also the running between the wickets, there's a cohesion there that's important for them. This New Zealand side is like every other New Zealand side you see. They punch above their weight, as they say. They punch above their weight. They do the normal things. They dropped a couple of catches, but look at the outfielding. The outfielding was absolutely superb, and that's something you expect out of New Zealand all the time.
And they've chased every single time in the World Cup so far, so it's almost become second nature to them. For a total like this, as we have a look at their schedule, this is what they've done so far. 10 wickets, 2 wickets and 7 wickets. That was an exciting one against Bangladesh that they won in a day-night fixture at the Oval, winning by 2 wickets. But even then, Mitch Santner came and sealed it. But just to have a look at a middling total like this, if it's 300, you know what to do. If it's 150, you know you can be 20 for no loss in 10 overs. How would they approach this? Or is there only one way, Munro and Guptill bat?
Look, for them to get to this total, they are going to need that start from Munro and Guptill for sure. Just simply because when you have a good start, then that sets the platform, and then Williamson and Ross Taylor are going to be very, very vital in that middle phase of the game, and not losing wickets is going to be the key for New Zealand. And from that point of view, the middle order, Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor are very, very important. So for South Africa, it's very important that you think in exactly opposite manner and have early breakthroughs. If you have that early inroads, if you have Guptill and Munro out as early as possible, then that's going to put pressure on Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor, because they're usually batsmen who like to take time. So when someone is in the middle phase taking time, that's when you can push that required run rate up and create more pressure when you take a couple of wickets in that middle phase. So that is how South Africa will have to approach, and that's why I said that for South Africa it's going to be out and out aggressive bowling. Look for those wickets. For New Zealand, it's going to be the same in terms of replicating their brand of cricket, which Guptill and Munro, what they're going to try? They're going to try and upset that length, which South Africa didn't do in their batting. New Zealand will try and do that, but that also gives you an opportunity to take wickets, because you've seen it every time they were chasing. Guptill will step out, because that's the kind of area which is going to provide maximum help for the bowlers. New Zealand bowlers did well to hang in that area. South African batsmen didn't really put pressure on New Zealand batsmen, but New Zealand batsmen for sure are going to try and use that tactic. That is where the opportunity lies. I think you just have to be proactive in the game. If you are in South African camp, someone needs to have these kind of chats around and just get them focused on that side of the game. Go out there and express yourself freely. So far, we've not seen South African team expressing freely, even in this match.
What Rassie van der Dussen said after the innings was that they've assessed it as a 250, 260 type of wicket. Yes, they fell short maybe by about 10 runs, but they still feel they backed their bowlers to do it. And it's a kind of total that New Zealand struggled against Bangladesh, 244 on that day.
Yeah. See, that's what they have to say. The clear message out here is you look at it and you say that 2 or more wickets in the first 10. If they do that, there's a match on. If they don't, if there's just 2 less wicket or 1 wicket or less than that, then I don't think it's going to be very difficult then to be able to stop them, because then, Shea, you don't need to grind very fast, because even if you chase at 4, 4.5, after 30, 35 overs without any risks, you are going to go at 6 in the end. It's very easy for you to do. You see, you can plan this chase very well. So the problem is that you have to take those wickets up front. You have to take those wickets up front. The other thing I was thinking is how this World Cup throws up things. Yesterday you had 33 sixes, 25 by England in the first innings. The first 6 today was in the 42nd over, and there's 4 sixes in the match in this first innings.
Yeah, I suspect that if New Zealand have their way, they'll add a few to it. But yes, it's not going to be anything close to what we saw 24 hours ago. Just looking at my non-existent My 11 Circle expert couch, which simply means we have it all to play for at the end of the game. We've emotionally all on South Africa's side, but when it comes to the couch, which way are you headed, Zaheer Khan?
South Africa. I want Rabada to see that one spell. It's due. And Ngidi, hope he's fully fit. It's just that early, doesn't matter what the result is. Even though I've been backing South Africa, so I'll stick to that, backing South Africa in this particular game. But I think for just to be matched to be exciting, it's important that those early breakthroughs are there. I'd like to see that first 12 overs, 3 wickets down, and Ngidi and Rabada making that impact on the game. Then it will be interesting viewing for the match.
All right, so if you're saying South Africa, so therefore by how many runs?
Come on, if it's South Africa, you should just give it.
I mean, in today's match, it's an underpass score. Then let's
all right, so that means we're both going New Zealand, is it?
So we are both going New Zealand.
All right,
because see, we've got the easier this thing. He's taken the tough one. All of it should be his.
Fine. Okay, so you go first.
Well played, but okay. 39th over.
39th over. Are we going by number of overs or which way? Number of wickets?
Okay.
Okay, overs is fine. 39th over. Yeah, yeah, I guess that's kind of close to it. Little bit longer. 42nd over. 42nd over. New Zealand winning the game. Zaheer Khan, the sole flyer of the Protea flag, to try and see if the Rainbow Nation can actually move forward and stay alive in this tournament. From a neutral perspective, there would be honestly nothing better, because it would make that table look closer and closer. We'll be back in... Actually, let's have a look at that table one more time. Why not? In case you weren't there on our morning show, or rather late afternoon show, you can have a look at where things stand and why we need South Africa to get those 2 points, get to 5. Otherwise, New Zealand will be climbing straight to the top on 9 points, and those top elite 4 will look more and more secure, with Bangladesh the only team hot on their heels. On that note, we'll see you at the end, but of course, 15th over to wrap it all up. That segment with Cricbuzz Combox. This has been My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.